Look at Homelander. Surely each of you, watching The Boys, wondered, what exactly is wrong with him? Why does the most powerful being on the planet behave like a cruel, capricious, and deeply traumatized child? Many simply call him a psychopath, a villain, or a sociopath, and leave it at that. But let's dig deeper. Let's start with the most obvious, with what catches the eye at the very first encounter with this character. In psychiatry, there is a term, antisocial personality disorder. In common parlance, this is more often called psychopathy or sociopathy. The main criterion of this disorder is an absolute inability to empathize and disregard for the lives of other people. Other people for such a person are simply objects, scenery, a resource. Let's look at the iconic scene in The Falling Plane. The plane is hijacked by terrorists. Homelander and Queen Maeve appear to save the passengers. But what does our hero do? He uses his laser vision in an enclosed space, accidentally or due to complete negligence, destroying the plane's control panel. From a psychological point of view, the most interesting part begins after this. A healthy person who committed a fatal mistake would panic, feel guilt, or desperately try to find a way out. But notice Homelander's face. There is not an ounce of regret on it. He coldly, mathematically assesses the situation. For him, the passengers are already dead, and he cares about only one thing: his reputation. When Maeve begs him to save at least someone, he responds with cold calculation.
No. No, what? So they can tell the world that we left the rest of them to fucking die?
He doesn't want to leave witnesses of his failure. And here, his psychopathy manifests in terrifying aggression. When desperate passengers try to approach him, begging for help, he removes his fake mask of a savior. He shouts with burning red eyes,
"The fuck back, or I'll laser you, goddammit! I'll laser every fucking one of you!"
Stunning scene. This is a pure, concentrated psychopath whose social mask has slipped off. The passengers interfere with his exit plan. They are a threat to his image, which means they are enemies. And when he and Maeve, watching the debris fall into the ocean, his face is absolutely calm. But Homelander wouldn't be so dangerous if he were just a psychopath. Malignant narcissism in the form of a god complex is added to his sociopathy. He truly believes that he stands above humanity on the evolutionary and spiritual ladder. Look at this baptism scene, incredible in its symbolism. Homelander arrives at a religious festival. For an ordinary person, religion is a way to find answers, to submit to a higher power. For a narcissist with a god complex, religion is just another tool to obtain adoration. In psychology, this is called narcissistic supply. Homelander steps down into the baptismal pool, but look at his body language. He shows no humility. He magnanimously allows people to believe in him. He acts as a deity, and then a dialogue happens with Huey, whom Homelander wants to baptize. Huey is frightened, and Homelander forgives him, forcibly ducking him into the water. Hidden in this act of false mercy is a deep pathology. Homelander physically needs to prove his absolute power over the lives, fears, and beliefs of others. He doesn't just want to be feared, he demands to be worshipped like a deity. Without this admiration, he feels an inner emptiness. And now we move on to the creepiest, most repulsive, but at the same time most psychologically profound part of this personality. If you take away Homelander's superpowers, who is left? A little, lonely, frightened boy who is desperately looking for a mother remains. As we know from the lore of the series, John grew up in a cold laboratory of the Vought Company. He had no maternal warmth, no attachment figure, according to John Bowlby's theory. He grew up like a lab rat. This early emotional deprivation caused irreparable damage to his psyche. He got stuck in the oral stage of psychosexual development, according to Sigmund Freud, which is characterized by a basic need for consumption, security, and the mother's breast. We see a scene in the office of Madelyn Stillwell, who was a surrogate mother to him. Homelander opens the refrigerator, takes out a bottle of her expressed breast milk. Look at how he warms the milk with his laser vision. Then he brings the bottle to his face, sniffs it, drinks it, and his face takes on an expression of frightening, trance-like ecstasy. This is not just a perversion. From a psychological point of view, this is a severe regression. In moments of colossal stress or inner loneliness, Homelander's psyche rolls back to the level of an infant. Consuming the milk of the woman who manipulated him and replaced his mother, he tries to fill that gaping black hole left by a childhood in a test tube. This is a desperate, pathological attempt to gain the illusion of basic security that he never had. And here we come to the genius of Madelyn Stillwell as a psychopath manipulator. She is faced with the deadliest being in the universe who is currently enraged, how to disarm him, call security, threaten him. No, she uses his psychological kryptonite, the abandoned child syndrome, and a mother figure. She takes on the role of a strict but all-forgiving mother.
But you cannot give a speech like that. You cannot be bad.
The word bad here sounds not like an evaluation of an adult's actions, but as a reprimand to a naughty schoolboy. And then a pattern break occurs. She unbuttons a button on her blouse, exposing her breast, and softly, hypnotically commands. She combines the archetype of a mother providing security and a sexualized object.
Come here.
This is a severe form of the Oedipus complex. What happens next is classic operant conditioning, Skinner's theory brought to the point of grotesque. Homelander, who just a minute ago was ready to incinerate entire nations, obediently, like a tired infant, lays his head on her lap. She strokes his hair and pronounces the instruction, embedding a code of submission into his broken brain.
You have to be good, and you have to listen to me.
And then we both can get what we want. Stillwell gives him the illusion of basic security in exchange for total control over his power. The climax of this psychopathology occurs when she puts her fingers to his lips and he greedily takes them into his mouth, sucking them like a pacifier or a mother's breast. Homelander's face at this moment reflects a complete infantile trance. He closes his eyes, his breathing levels out. Madelyn whispers with satisfaction. Later, we see the climax of this rejected child trauma in another scene.
Tell me the truth, or I walk out right now.
He behaves like an abandoned child, demanding the truth from a parent he hates and loves at the same time. His attachment trauma prevents him from building a healthy relationship with any woman. He always either subjugates them or brutally kills them, because deep down he is afraid of being abandoned again. Psychology teaches us cruelty is most often born from a sense of powerlessness. But how can a being who is physically invulnerable feel powerlessness? The answer is simple. Homelander is emotionally powerless, and to drown out his emotional insignificance, he resorts to extreme forms of sadism. He physically needs to humiliate others to elevate himself. Notice the scene where he tests a new candidate for the 7 blind spot. The guy is blind, but thanks to enhanced hearing, he possesses incredible skills. Ashley is delighted. The guy demonstrates excellent acrobatic results. What does Homelander do? First, with a fake, creepy smile, he praises him.
That's impressive.
You don't need super eyes when you have...
But then, completely unexpectedly, Homelander claps the guy over the ears with superhuman strength, rupturing his eardrums. The guy rolls on the floor in a pool of blood, howling in pain. And Homelander coldly looks down at him and says to Ashley,
This must be some kind of a joke. Ashley...
What made you think I would ever allow a cripple into the 7? For fuck's sakes, Ashley, don't look at him, look at me. Ashley! Look at me!
Note, in this part of the monologue, he clearly makes his position of elitism understood. This is a manifestation of not just cruelty, it is a demonstration of the fascist ideology of eugenics embedded in him by his Vought upbringing and pure sadism. Any flaw, any disability for Homelander is a reminder of human vulnerability. He destroys the guy to prove to himself, I am not like that, I am perfect. We see another striking example of everyday perverted sadism and control over someone else's will in the scene with the Deep. A dinner party. Lies a live octopus named Timothy. The octopus is a friend of the Deep. He begs for help, but Homelander, enjoying his power, orders,
Eat fucking Timothy.
Why does he do this? There is no practical need for it, but the psychological need is huge. Homelander feeds on the broken will of others. By forcing the Deep to eat his live friend, Homelander completely breaks his psyche, making him his absolute slave. This is sadistic control in its purest form. If a person is broken by you, they will not leave you. This is a distorted form of security for Homelander's traumatized psyche. Now, let's see how a psychopath and a narcissist tries to play daddy. Homelander's relationship with his son Ryan is a textbook example of toxic parenting. In psychology, there is the term narcissistic extension. This is when a parent does not see the child as a separate, independent individual. The child for them is merely a continuation of themselves, their extension. Homelander desperately wants to create the family he never had, but since he has zero emotional intelligence, he does it through monstrous methods. We see a scene in the backyard. A beaten Butcher is lying there, and Butcher's wife, Becca, is right there too. Homelander approaches Ryan with the words,
I'm your father. We are a family.
He completely ignores the mother's feelings, ignores the child's own fright. For him, the image, the fantasy of a family is what matters. He wants to save Ryan from an ordinary human life, projecting his own fears onto him. Even more indicative is the scene on the roof of the house. Homelander puts little Ryan on the edge of the roof. The boy is terrified.
Please don't make me jump.
And Homelander, with a psychopath smile, convinced that he is right, replies,
Ryan, you're my son. You can fly, just like me.
When Ryan refuses, Homelander simply pushes his own son off the roof. The boy falls face down on the ground. Think about the horror of this scene. Homelander's psyche works like this. If he is my son, it means he is me. I can fly, so he will fly too. His fear is an illusion. Homelander is absolutely blind to Ryan's needs and individuality. Any attempt by Homelander to love turns into violence because he only knows how to love himself or his copy. Next, think about this. Withstanding the constant tension of hating humanity, but being forced to smile at it on camera to receive adoration is a direct path to psychosis. Homelander's psyche is bursting at the seams under the weight of cognitive dissonance. I am a god, but I have to fawn over bugs. And this breeds terrible, intrusive thoughts, intrusions. A brilliant scene of protests. A crowd of thousands chants slogans against Homelander. They are not afraid of him, and we see his internal frustration growing. The viewer hears the noise of the crowd, the shouts. Inside Homelander, narcissistic rage boils up. The anger that arises in a narcissist when their ideal image is criticized. Suddenly, Homelander loses control. His eyes light up, and he lasers the entire crowd in the square. Blood-torn bodies, total apocalypse. Relief is written on his face, but then the image changes, and we realize that it was a fantasy. This moment is incredibly important. It shows that the barrier between his internal maniacal desires and reality is getting thinner and thinner. His psychosis is near. The effort he spends on suppressing the desire to kill everyone around him thoroughly exhausts his psyche. A person with such a level of repressed aggression is a time bomb. The only question is when this containment mechanism will break completely. And this leads us to the final, darkest diagnosis. When stress becomes unbearable, when the world stops giving the necessary level of love, when internal conflict tears one apart, the psyche activates an extreme defense mechanism: splitting. Dissociation. A person literally splits into several subpersonalities. We see the seeds of dissociative identity disorder. He looks at his reflection. A mirror in cinema is a classic trope for demonstrating personality splitting. The Homelander from the mirror, a cruel, calculating beast, completely devoid of humanity, talks to the real Homelander, who still retains some crumbs of vulnerability, who cries and admits that he needs love.
Still need love. So much love.
He convinces himself in the reflection, forcing himself to kill the remnants of humanity within him. The reflection tells him a devil's internal psychotherapeutic session takes place here. A subpersonality, or his shadow, according to Jung, embodying pure power and psychopathy, devours his weaker, traumatized ego. He hypnotizes himself, cutting off attachments to his son, to people, to any form of love. The result of this internal dialogue with the reflection is the complete destruction of the personality of John the human and the ultimate dominance of Homelander the god. He is reborn through his own madness, killing his vulnerability. This is the terminal stage of narcissism and the beginning of an active schizophrenia-like psychosis. From this moment on, no one exists for him except himself in the mirror.
It's time to overcome this need for love, this sickness.
This finds its confirmation in his subsequent public meltdown during the charity evening of the Starlight House organization. Being on stage under the spotlights, he finally rips off the mask of the Boy Scout of America and pours his grandiosity, his megalomania into the microphone, declaring to the crowd that he is not their equal. His cry,
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
is an epitaph on the grave of his sanity. From now on, there is only God. And God, as is known from the narcissist's logic, does not need a psychotherapist. God only needs obedience.